Yeah, and welcome to another episode of the Be Life podcast. And we're continuing our July emphasis on Christian leadership, on men of faith who are leaders in the community and how that faith influences the way people lead. And a gentleman that I have known for a long time and admire and respect and has just done so much for our community here in Canton, Ohio, is Tim Haverstock. And Tim is the director of the J. Babe Stern Boys and Girls Club here in Canton, Ohio. And the Babe Stern Center's been here for how long, Tim?
Yeah, 70 years, Joe.
70.
Babe Stern, was the original director of it, of the old Canton Police Boys and Girls Club. So well over 70 years.
And you've been there how long?
44 years, coming up on 44.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you come in and replace him?
Well, no. There was a couple other directors, but I came in, as an entry level kind of employee and worked my way towards that top myself. Dave Midday. Yeah, we've both been there 44 years.
Wow.
We were, we're best friends. We came from the same neighborhood. We grew up a mile from the club where we're at right now.
Okay.
So we're still in the same neighborhood, never able to really get out, I guess.
Well, you obviously didn't want to.
That's good.
It's almost like Welcome Back Kotter kind of thing where welcome back. You went to the Babe Stern Center, I'm sure.
Yeah, as a kid it was called Canton Police Boys Club, and it was down on the original building. It was down on, and if you think about Canton, if you know Canton out there, you're looking at Navarre Road, Dubur, Navarre Road, Southwest End.
No one's going to know this in California
that's
or
okay,
London,
though.
but that's okay. But go ahead.
No, they can get on Google Maps.
Okay, good.
Right?
Good.
Dubur and Navarre, Timken roller bearings. But really down in that blue-collar neighborhood, steel workers, a variety. I mean, a real variety of diversity of people. It's crazy.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's as well. In every city, there are different pockets.
Right. Yeah.
Different ethnicities, but also different cultures and different, the people work at a certain area. I grew up in North Akron. And North Akron, the rubber factories and everything that was going on. And then you had West Akron, which was different. And you had Firestone Park and all that. So I think in every city, I don't care where you're at, London, whatever, you've got different pockets of people. And it's kind of where Tim's talking about is kind of the blue collar area.
Yeah. And the other side of it is too there. So if you go down far enough in the Southwest End, very close to our buildings, though, you have a little Appalachia, and we got, we would have kids actually, hey, can we capture these groundhogs on the property? Because we eat those, and we had all these different cultures, and we still do, and they kind of merged together.
It's amazing to me. At 44 years now, I want you to talk a little bit about, obviously this podcast is about, we talk about how practical Christianity is, because Christianity has got to be practical. It can't be about some airy-fairy thing. I used to believe in Christianity. For me was kind of, God, I'll handle everything else. I'll handle business and coaching and all this, and you're my kind of get out of jail free card. So,
yeah, right.
So I want to deal with that. And then also we talk a lot in this podcast about what Christianity isn't, also that it isn't. We did 3 sessions or 3 podcasts on, the moral majority and the right wing Christianity. And now there's this thing called Christian nationalism, where people are attached the term Christianity to whatever cause they have so that they could beat you over the head with it.
Right.
And make you feel bad and make you feel like it's kind of, you've got to get your act straight before you come to Christ.
Right.
Because instead of saying what Jesus really was a person who came for the sinners, for the people who were sick, and not the religious people. His biggest battles were with the religious people.
Man. Yeah.
So Tim, I guess in your life, I know faith has played a big part in it. How has it affected How did it affect your initial decision
Mhm.
to get into a people business, a kid's business, like running the Babe Stearns Center and bringing young men? They could be troubled, they could have all different backgrounds, they could be good, they could be bad, whatever. But you bring them in. How did that faith affect your decision on your vocation? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, and Joe, you're, as a coach,
Yes.
as a legendary coach, I would say. No, you are. You
Okay.
started programs. You played at a high level. You know everybody in the game. You're that kind of guy. I felt, I've kind of had that inkling to be a coach, and I've done some of that. But for me, Joe, grew up without a father. My mom did the best she could. She worked at Hoover's before it was in China.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was making sweepers in North Canton, Ohio. Get up at 5:30 in the morning, come home. She was there every day cooking food. Wasn't going to give you a hug saying I love you. That was not in her vocabulary, but she showed it by the laundry was done, food to eat. In the meantime, two boys growing up in that household, we got away with a lot. So the paths I went down weren't really good at that time, going through high school and in the 70s, Joe, I
Oh,
know I don't
yeah.
look like it, to you Californians, we can look good too here in Ohio. But here's the thing, Joe, I got to that period of my life where I'm believing. I actually grew up in a church, and I've spent a lot of time at First Church of the Nazarene in Canton, Ohio. I had a
Mhm.
good, solid foundation from there. I understood it, but I walked away, and so I'm enjoying the '70s in a bad way. You know,
We kind of all did.
yeah, I think so. A lot
I
of us,
think
right?
it was part of being in the 70s.
We bit into the lie though.
Yeah, we did. We did.
And there was a point where, God says, I'll never leave you or forsake you.
Hmm.
And I wasn't thinking of that at the time, but I remember one day I'm smoking a joint in a bathtub. Not a good picture for now, but then I looked pretty good. But, I was smoking a
Oh,
joint in a
that's
bath,
funny.
not doing anything in my life, high the night before, partying the night before. And, I hear this, I want to say voice, but it wasn't audible, but it was like, okay, so how's this going for you? And literally I was like, I'm looked down at myself in the bathtub and I'm thinking, no, this is a mess. So
Forgive me for laughing, but
no, it's
this
true. I'm
is
just telling you straight up, man.
yeah.
So exactly, that's what it was. Where I thought, okay, now I got all this background back here, from earlier years, and it's okay. So maybe this God stuff's right. That's exactly what I thought. Maybe this God stuff's right, and my ways have been wrong. At that point, I start making a turn. Like I'm starting to think about, okay, I literally quit smoking weed and drinking immediately.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And Joe, so the other piece of this story, which is a miracle story, I like to tell it because God works. We're looking for walls to levitate or buildings to lift up before we want to believe in God, right? The miracle's sitting right in front of these cameras right now. That
Amen.
God would redeem somebody like me, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm just a Canton low life dude, and I'm walking around the streets, and I'm, not have no, direction in my life. I'm, doing everything that you're probably, probably you don't want any of your kids to ever do. So my best friend lives a block away. At that very same time that God's working in my life, right? Because I didn't expect God to work in my life at that moment. He's at a summer camp working for the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. That's my friend Dave Midday. And Dave, his brother played it, for Bobby Knight at Indiana. We had an amazing neighborhood of athletes, but we were also pretty good at partying. Not only were we good at sports, we were good at partying. And my friend Dave was down there. He took a bag of dope with him the first week, and he's down there and he's living in the dorms, and they do a search of the dorms. Very first day, they bring the guys to work into camp, right? Has to throw it out. So now he's going to be there for like 6 weeks doing these forest cleanups. It's a summer job. At that point, he's got nothing else to do. He starts running after work in the evening, jogging through running through the forest and different things. And that year before, he had had a bad experience with his high school basketball team. He was going to be a senior that year. I'm a couple of years older than him. He's going to be a senior that incoming year. He got thrown off the basketball team. You look at the pictures. You're looking high, right? All that stuff. He comes back. I tell him we didn't have cell phones then, Joe. As soon as he comes back, I said, "Tell Dave." I go, "Dave, here's what happened to me. I'm thinking this God stuff's right." He looks like a different person because he's been running for 6 weeks, doing push-ups, just didn't have anything else to do. He's living in the forest. Cleaned up. He had a biblical background as well. we started reading the Bible. I'm cutting to the chase, but we started reading the Bible. We didn't know what we were doing, but God's leading us. And those are miracle things. We ended up working together for the last 44 years.
Wow.
So how I got into the business was I didn't intend to. I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to get into high school coaching. And I got, kind of led to where we were at, and called Dave one day. I said, we need another guy. He came in, and we have been there 44 years, Joe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Well, and the key was, Joe, I got to put this part in because our goal was to, hopefully lead students into the idea that don't go down the path we went.
Yeah.
So we wanted to share from a God perspective. We wanted to share from a mistake perspective. And that's really how we got started in that. And every time we thought we'd leave, there'd be another group of students coming up. There's always a group behind, always a group behind. And in coaching, if you have a good group coming up, you want to stick with them.
Yes.
Man, that's how it was.
It just kept happening.
Yeah, and it's 44 years later.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. How many times during those 44 years did you think, okay, I'm at year number 5. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to do this. And you just kept doing it. I found that in coaching. I was in coaching for 18 years.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. It was just, it just keeps going. It's like a treadmill that you don't really get off, but you just keep getting challenged by new people, new kids.
You're a driven guy. I mean, we're driven. We're driven to, God wired us that way. I mean, we probably can't, we can't change it, right? So we channel it into the things. And once we kind of get the right perspectives and things, now we're like, I'm using this for, the kingdom. I'm using this to hopefully, some students don't go down the road I went down.
Yeah.
Or to become better at whatever. I mean, watching, I talked to you about this a little bit ago. Student graduated this year with his degree in engineering, going to be a nuclear engineer, right?
Can you believe that?
Yeah, came from a really tough, right here in Canton, came from a really tough household. And now he's going to take a summer and work at a church summer camp because he wants to lead students in a direction that's positive as well.
Wow.
It's cool stuff, man.
It is cool. Yeah. And it totally, people who are listening to this and have listened to this podcast before, that we're very real. There's no pretense here about, I'm a Christian. This is this. I've said this before that a church should be a hospital for sinners,
100%,
a hospital for sick people, instead of a museum for saints. And this church is truly that. That's why what attracted my wife and I to it. But more than that, we are to pour ourselves into young people and to pour ourselves into people and to keep. I heard a pastor one time not too long ago say, you don't want to fill other people's cup. You want to, because then you think you have a lot to give. Mm-hmm. You just want to empty the cup you have.
Yeah. That's good. That's good stuff.
Right there.
Yeah.
And so you have made a vocation of that. You have given your life. And I know you don't like to say this, Tim. I know that.
I don't, man.
But let's face it. Let's be honest. You have poured your cup into thousands of young people. You have poured your cup into thousands of young people. And your legacy is...
I don't want a legacy.
No, but you got to have a legacy.
I mean, I'm just going to tell you that. I just, man, dude, you're dying. You're old.
No.
I don't want, you know what I mean? I got some stuff to get done, and we're going to get it done. But I get you, though.
But it's a fact. It's a fact because, some people's legacy, when you chase the world, when you chase the lie of the world, you were talking about in the 70s, because we both did. Yeah. I chased the lie. I mean, if people knew, and I remember 70s, here I am in the 70s. White 3-piece bell-bottom suit.
Yeah. John Travolta.
Silk shirt. Well, I think it had a clown on it, but it was silk. Big collar that came out here, buttoned down to here with chains with a little Italian
You had
horn.
the pepper on. No, that's a pepper, man. That's a pepper. That is not an Italian horn. Them guys grow peppers better than anybody else. But I got you, man.
And then
I knew guys like you, by the way.
4-inch platform shoes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and I bought into that, and everything else. I bought into the world's lies. But if you do that and you stay in that,
right,
your legacy is nothing. Think about it. Think about a person who makes their life about how much they can accumulate, how much money, how much fame,
mm-hmm.
and then you have nothing. That is not a legacy. That is not the Hearst Castle is now a place where people go and just pay money to walk through it.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a good point.
You have invested in thousands of lives who they in turn, like the young man you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
is investing in other kids' lives. It's a domino effect. You have changed lives.
Hey man, I got to tell you this.
Yeah, and isn't that neat?
Yeah, it's
think
good.
about it.
But you're talking about Italians. This just 2 days ago. No, this is legit. This is legit. Joe, listen, this is legit. I think everybody needs to have this. I think you need to have this as part of your team as well. Something that just happened, you know, I think God just kind of led us a few years ago with this. So I started, and I call it the Mafia. And it's where I take like some of the guys that are graduated from college, some guys are still in college, and maybe a 30-year-old. And then I'm the head soprano, right? So we Gumbada Chief the whole thing, right? I'd sit at the chair. I do. I sit at the chair, and then I put the next guy that we're working towards in
your
the middle.
consigliere?
Capiche. All right. So, no, now listen.
Go ahead.
So this is a fact. So we sit down, Adam, another kid. This kid was a backup quarterback on his high school team. One of those guys, Joe, was backup quarterback, throws the ball well, knows everything in his head, but wasn't physically the guy.
Right.
Okay. But his guy comes from, you know, kind of a lower income family. So we got to get him to college. How do we do that? You know, a lot of times kids do not have a structure in their background to their family isn't able to walk beside them and, okay, you know, get the FAFSA done, get all this stuff done, timely, let's be on time, all the stuff it takes. So we form this Mafia group, and we sit in with guys every year.
Mm-hmm.
We select the guys that we think are going to grab a hold of it. So we had our meeting on Thursday with one of our guys, and, you know, I think that's important for us guys. So us older guys need to take these college guys and find these high school guys that are coming up, and maybe even start sometimes in middle school, and hold, because there's some great things that came out of the organization, out of that Mafia organization, out of the family. We think about being a family. So everybody involved in that group are Christians from my perspective. I bring in these guys that are all Christian brothers, you know, but they're young, but we're bringing up a high school guy. Now we're telling him what he has to do. And it's so much fun for me as being an old guy. I sit back, you know, I try to sit back like I do, man. I sit back, I kind of put out some talking points.
Yeah.
And we address each one of them, and then every guy.
Do you sit back?
I do. I really do. Because, you know, at 365 pounds, I fit the part, you know, and I don't walk good. I don't get up like I used to. So I sit there.
That's funny.
But Joe, here's the thing.
But it's serious. This is
very serious about it. You can take a lot of the good stuff from looking at, you know, what worked in families, what works even in gangs. You know, you can look at some of this stuff and say, you know what? How do we do it as Christians on the real life, on the rubber on the road, right?
Yes.
Just in a community center where you got a kid here. He's like, okay, we know we got a kid. It's kind of like, Joe, if you were coaching this kid, you'd say, this is the guy I want on my team.
Yeah.
Because he knows everything. He can keep everybody else. He might not be my guy to start, but he has that ability to be a team guy. He's an encourager kind of guy. So you know he's going to go somewhere. It's like Josh McDaniels.
Yes.
Physically wasn't the biggest guy ever.
Right.
You know, and turned out to be a heck of a quarterback. Went on to, you know. So you look at guys like that and you think, how do we pour into them? How do we get them to the next place? And that's so much fun for me as getting older. That's my position. One of my positions now is just to kind of organize that piece, sit back and let it happen. And then just kind of.
And you're teaching young men that, you know, one of the things I think Pastor Dan has talked about, and I've talked about it too with as a coach and everything, is that, you know, you want to if you're focused on yourself all the time, that's when you get all the problems.
Yeah,
That's when you have all the this and that and this and that. And because you're focusing on yourself, the more you have an outside view
mm-hmm.
of things, the more you're wanting to give. So you're teaching young men
Mm-hmm.
to give of their lives, to empty their cup into the next generation. You're teaching how to care. That's what you're doing.
Well, but that's what we're called to do. Right? And then
but most people don't do it.
Well,
we're called
I'm lucky
to do
though.
it.
Look, it's okay, folks. Don't get nervous because I said lucky, because sometimes Christians freak out about that. I could say I'm blessed, and it's an actual really good. It fits.
You're lucky. I'm lucky,
but I am lucky, fortunate, and blessed. All those in one, because I work in a place where there's all these young guys around, and they're just, there's no fathers.
Yeah.
You know this. There's very, not a lot of fathers anymore. We're living in a culture where, fathers just aren't there.
Yeah.
And so
sadly.
Yeah. So these guys, men and women, but I deal mostly with the guys because that's, it's that comfort zone for me, kind of fit with the athlete kind of guys, but non-athletes as well. It doesn't matter. But we have a little Bible study we do, and we, guys can get connected if they want to come and they don't want to come. I got a whole variety of people that like to do that. And I don't know. Here's the crazy thing, right? You and I are about the same age. Okay. Give or take a year or two. Okay?
70. I'm 71.
And I'm 67. So,
Oh, you're a child.
I am. You're my big brother, man. But when I look at it and I think about it at our age, why do these guys still want to come to my house and eat, $5 pizzas from, what's the name of that guy? Little Caesar guy, and eat these $5 pizzas and have a Bible study. I mean, they come. And I don't know. I'm just like crazy. It's crazy that God still allowed me to have that. But so I end up thinking I get more out of it than they do.
Yeah.
Because I still feel relevant.
Yeah.
It's important for me to feel relevant.
I agree.
It really is. I mean, purpose, right? So right now I kind of got that's one of the purposes. But these guys then watching, some of these guys like mature and grow up and take these next group under their wing and push them. Here's how we're going to do the FAFSA. Here's all the scholarships we're going to pursue. Here's all the, grants and aids we need to do. And oh, by the way, don't, here's the way to get through college. Don't do what I did when I was in there. I got with this girl. It was horrible. It was a bad experience for the girl. It was horrible for me. All those things. Then talk about, the things we've reading about. How does it parallel? Like God does not say don't have sex because he doesn't want us to have sex. It's because he knows it's going to tear up our lives out of the proper, sex is the only thing that's a sin now. And it's not over here. So when you get married, it's no longer a sin. Think about that.
Yeah.
But it's a sin over here, premarital.
Mm-hmm.
So God is
why?
Really, well, and here's the reason why.
Yes.
Right? Because it's going to, our life's not, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons I think is just because of the destruction these things cause in our life. You get a girl pregnant. What are we going to do? Brings up that abortion issue. What do we, the heartbreak, this when you were wearing that John Travolta outfit, bro, driving around in that. Did you have a Firebird, by the way, with the eagle?
No, I had a little Fiat, an orange Fiat convertible.
What else, man? This guy's something else. But, all that stuff, Joe.
I agree with you because
you went through.
But you're right. If you look at, a lot of times we go back to I go back to Catholic background a little bit, and a sin is something you get. A nun comes by and whacks you over the knuckles with a ruler, or something like that. But
back of the head.
But and you're told to do these things and you don't understand. But you're exactly right. You're getting a point. You're teaching young men, why is this a sin? It's not a sin because I say it's a sin.
Yeah, right.
It's a sin because you do this out of the way it's supposed to be done. You're screwing up the rest of your life.
Right.
You're messing up the rest of your life.
That's the day-to-day.
Yes.
That's the day-to-day. And so, and then God wants you, and the other great part is to think about, in our society, it probably don't have it as much as it should, but if a guy and gal can make it to that marriage state and they save themselves for each other, you don't worry about, are you cheating on me? Are you this or that and the other thing? All these things that can come about, that distrust factor that can creep in all of our relationships. We all deal with stuff, maybe like that. And so if you do that, and if you're able to get through that time and God helps you, he gives you that power to walk away. And he tells you ahead of time, man, don't put yourself in these tempting positions. And not just that, The issue today is so bad with porn with students. I mean, 2013, you look at some of these statistics, it was an explosion in 2013 of where students became more anxiety, more depression. And
Wasn't it the time social media really started
and that
blossoming?
well, that's when it just blew open.
Yeah.
And so, Joe, all those kinds of things, you hear these statistics and you start putting it together. Really, everything's about just. Satan says he wants to come and seek, kill, and destroy.
Yeah.
He wants to destroy us. So what do? Put a nice looking chick with no clothes on in front of a guy who's 16, 17 years old and say, okay, be a Christian now,
Yeah.
right? Because God did wire us. We're wired for these attractions.
Right.
That's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with the attractions. But, ladies and men both dress a little more modestly. It'd help us all out,
Yeah.
right?
But aside from, I mean, everything is like that. You can say,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to cheat on this.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut a corner here. I'm going to, a business owner, I'm going to lie about this exemption. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that.
Mhm.
Everything that we're told is a sin, instead of saying it's a sin, look at it and just say, is this the best thing for me?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
What is right? What is the right thing to do? Because not only can you get repercussions in the real world for doing things that you shouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also going to carry that guilt
Oh, yeah.
that just
100%.
will destroy you. And trust me, I've been there.
Me too.
And so here's a question for you. You've been doing this 44 years. The world has changed so much in 44 years. And I talked to Doug Pugh about this because he's been in Chick-fil-A since 87.
Yeah, what a great
And
business.
so everything things have changed dramatically in the world. Chick-fil-A has gone through this being a target that people want to destroy because they know it's based on biblical
Yeah,
values.
it's associated with God.
Yeah.
We hate
so
God.
we got to blow this
Yeah,
up somehow.
yeah,
We got to
yeah.
boycott it.
Yeah.
But so how has it changed for you dealing with young people? Let's look at young people in the 70s, 80s. Let's look at young people in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And now looking at young people today, how has it changed, Tim?
So, just some of the stories, some of the things, you and I, you've been through the same thing. I got quit pounding on the table. If you hear me do this,
You're allowed to do it.
it's because I'm mad.
You're allowed to do it.
Joe, one of the hardest things for me this year was I had this young lady that I taught how to play basketball. I might have shared this with you before, but I taught her how to play basketball when she was a little girl. Came from a broken home. Mom had this guy living at home who was really a bad guy, but she would come down to the club and I helped her with basketball. So she became a basketball player. She became, pretty good at it. I hadn't seen her for probably about 15 years, although on social media, I was still connected with her. She came back to the area. She went to the military. Some things didn't work out. She came back to the area. So she was transitioning to a male.
Uh-huh.
Or,
yeah.
So Nikki, I can use the first name, Nikki came into our building. This is somebody that I would say in some ways would be like a daughter to me.
Right.
We spent a lot of time talking about things and shooting baskets, and that was a conduit to just, building a relationship. And she loves me too. Right. And now I got to tell her she wants to come and utilize our building on our off hours, on our community center hours, which are adult driven.
Right.
And I got to tell her, and she wants to use the male locker room, but she's not a male. She was born a female. I love this person. She even has some biblical backgrounds. She was searching. She's been searching for stuff, right? For what's going on in my life.
Right.
So transitioning, may be part of that, And so I said, Nikki, I said, look, I love you. And I said, you can't use the men's locker room. Now, I didn't have to deal with that in the 80s. 90s, 2000,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm also getting pushed some of the stuff today, and this is where I'm going to criticize the church a little bit if I can do that. And I mean
Sure.
this in a loving way,
No, you
right?
just, yeah.
Because I am the church. We are the church. We are
Yes.
the people of the church, right?
Yes.
We are dealing with stuff today that's become legislation, meaning we're voting on as it should have been issues of the church. It always was the issues of the church, but we kind of dropped out and let the government take it over. When government takes it over, they determine. Now we're giving things like puberty blockers to students, and this isn't a Republican or Democrat thing. This is just where were we as the church? Where were we standing up and saying, no, you're not taking our kids?
But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
And here's my,
Because I hate it, because I'm working in a place now where I'm
you've got
forced
to
to
deal
almost
with it
accept it.
all.
And I need my brothers at the church to grab my back and say, well, no, we're standing with you.
Yeah. And there's a part of me, to me, it's simpler, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'm going to let you, but this is a good discussion.
All right.
Good discussion. I know from 71 years of living on this earth that nothing can be changed by legislation. Behavior can never be changed by legislation. We've had the war on drugs. We've had the war on poverty. We've had the war on crime. We've had all these wars that these presidents get up there and they declare war on this. We're wiping it out.
Mm-hmm.
Gets worse. I know after 70 years of fighting these battles, and trust me, I was very political. You know that. I was very political.
And you need to be still. And
No, I do.
Well,
but
go ahead.
Go
ahead.
Bear
Finish
with
up.
me. Bear with me. I know now that no one can ever change because I'm standing up and spouting something. The only person, and I've learned this just in the last, I don't know, I actually became a Christian probably 7 years ago now, where I was a Christian divided.
Yeah.
I said, when I truly gave my life to the Lord and surrendered my life to the Lord, was probably 7 years ago now. I don't know the exact day. I know people tell me I should know and all that, but I don't.
No.
Right. I don't remember, and it doesn't matter to me.
Well, Joe, you're old, man.
I know, I'm old.
We don't remember a lot of
things. I know. But here's what I'm saying, Tim. I don't think the church's responsibility is to get up and tell people what to do. Only Jesus Christ can change a heart. He was the only one who could change my heart. He's the only one that could change you. I could have beat on you forever and said, get off the drugs, get off this stuff, stop that. You shouldn't do that. I could have gotten a pulpit. I could have gotten on my old radio show and said, Tim, you people, you got to stop doing this stuff. We've got to, and condemn people.
Yeah, no, never.
But Jesus Christ is the only one who says, I will change your heart. I will turn your heart from stone to flesh. I will change you inside out. He did me. So I don't believe the church is and should be a platform for politics. I believe that a church should be a platform for introducing people to Jesus Christ.
So I agree with you, but I want to challenge you with a couple of things to think about, right? We'll go back and forth.
No, this is great for people to hear.
Well,
because this is real.
Well, it is, yeah. Because I'm agreeing with you, but I consider myself a Christian activist.
Okay.
All right. And so I agree with what you said. You can't legislate morality.
Right.
That's what you said.
Right.
You cannot legislate morality. So the government can't make rules to make everybody better. Great. The church can't tell you, us as Christians can't walk up to somebody and change their lives either, right? We can't do it. It's
and what right do we have? Because you and I
right.
are a mess. We're just saved by the grace of God.
But we are called, right? We are called to share our stories with folks and share what Christ has done in our lives.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So here's what I'm trying to pare down a little bit. So everything that is a biblical issue, all right, and things that are contradictory to God's word that are out in the public square, we have a right to challenge those. We have a right, and I believe actually not just a right, a calling to do that. In other words, we need to stand in that gap where the school board says, no, we're going to read these particular books to our 5 and 6 year olds and 7 year olds and try to, push an agenda. I don't look at that as a political thing. Here's why I don't. This is where the church has allowed it to get down the road that far.
So you're saying it's not political, it's just evil.
There are some things, right. I don't think we need to get into necessarily the budget of politics. We don't need to get into those kinds of things. But I think things that cross over into things that are contradictory to God's word, then we have to stand up and say, when it's contradictory to God's word, we say, well, wait a minute, that's contradictory to God's word. This is why I can't turn my back on God and my value systems that I believe in, because what he changed and did for me, and not only can do for you as well. I need to try to be that salt and light in this world, and by doing so, I need to stand up for some things. And
yes. But
do I need to walk around wearing a Trump hat or a Biden hat? No.
Do you need to be part of a group like Moral Majority? No.
No, you don't. I think you just be yourself in the public square. Looking back in history, church history, years and years and years ago, there's two things I want to talk to you about if we got time to do it.
I think we do.
All right. Well, it's moving faster. I got a lot
time goes fast when you
do. And it does. Man.
Go ahead.
But you look at the public square, and the church was always the meeting place for the public square back, going back in the 1700s. And,
yes.
You come into the church would be the place where the votes were taken, where they make decisions. The church was the
center of the community.
It really was. It really was. Now, government branched out and got bigger and bigger and bigger. The church just said, well, we're over here. So you do this on Sunday, and we don't do anything Monday, Monday through Saturday. This is where I feel like, because I want to say this is where I see it. It needs to go into Monday through the Saturday.
We've abdicated that role of being part of the people's overall life,
the culture and the fabric of this culture.
But we have to do it, and you did it. I mean, with Nikki, the girl you're talking about, you still love her.
Oh yeah,
you said I love her.
No.
You didn't say, "Hey, look, because you're doing this, I'm condemning you. I'm hating you. I'm ostracizing you." You still know. Mm-hmm. You still have that love for her.
Yeah.
And you're just stating a fact. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, I can't allow you to do this in our place because the majority of the people who will be using that bathroom will be offended.
I asked politely on that situation. She was so sweet with me, right? And even these words that I'm using, saying she was so sweet with me, would offend people.
Yes.
That are transitioning.
Yes.
You see what kind of conundrum we're in?
Yes.
So I literally have to go look in the state of Ohio and look at, Yost, our AG, Attorney General Yost, and look at what is legally right here. And so this is just what I'm landing on, right? It happens to be fortunate I had something there, but the church wasn't there, or other people weren't there for me to have my back.
I hear you.
I mean, I'm saying
you felt alone.
I had to make a decision and talk to her about it, and and so on. And she understood, and we even shared a little bit about Christ, about things, like where you at with your biblical perspective, and so on and so forth. But she was wonderful, right? But there are some people that are going to be, it's going to be an aggressive battle. And I got to protect other people in my building, other students, other kids.
But I'm going to explain something also. This is great because it's coming back. A lot of things that Doug Pugh talked about are similar because he mentioned the fact that you lead in love.
Mm-hmm.
You led in love with this person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You led in love your whole life with this person.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversation was
A little bit of father-daughter conversation, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Or uncle.
Yeah.
Something.
So
mm-hmm.
That's the difference. And that's the key that we have to remember in Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
You know Bill Shear, the Whispering Grace horses.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Well,
I know both the Bill Shears.
I know that. But Bill Shear, Whispering Grace horses, and I brought this up with Doug Pugh too. He says, when people come out and start working with the horses at our ranches, the horses want to know three things. Can you care about me? Can you help me? And can I trust you?
Mm-hmm.
And that is so true we have to take that lesson as Christians too. People that we come in contact with want to know. When I went to Ukraine, those people wanted to know, can you help us? Can you possibly care for us? And can I trust you that you don't put me on a human trafficking bus, or you don't do this, or you don't do that? Once those three things are established, that becomes love.
Mm-hmm. Yes, right.
And we as Christians, and in your vein, you already know this, but we as Christians, instead of beating people, we give the impression to a lot of people that Christianity is some kind of self-improvement course.
Yeah, right.
That a moral improvement course, that when you become a Christian, suddenly you become morally superior to other people. Well, that's not the case. We're still messed up.
Yes.
And so a church should look messed up. It shouldn't look like a museum.
Yeah.
So as you start to work with people, and you're working with all these people, you're naturally, because of your faith and because of who you are, you're leading all the time with these young people with love. I've seen you interact with people. You lead with love. And whether it's the 80s or now, if you lead with that love and they know those three things about you, you could work things out.
Yes, but not all the time.
Okay.
Because look, Joe, listen, man.
Other people from the outside get involved. That's the problem, isn't it? It's not necessarily kids.
Yeah. That's a big part. Yes, correctly. Yeah, you're right.
And it's like this with me. I haven't been on Facebook in 10 years. I won't go on social media, because when I did get involved with social media years ago, you'd start a discussion with someone, you and I, and the next thing you know, 10 other people get involved, and 5 minutes later, you're not even talking about the same thing. You're just screaming and yelling at each other.
You can't. Yeah, and I'm on social media, but here's something that you and I are kind of probably relate to, right? The kicker from Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh yeah,
he gets up and makes a commencement
at
a private university.
His own opinion,
and not only that, it's something that his wife and him even discussed. It isn't like he went out and said, my wife, she's a hoe. No, he didn't. No, it was like, my wife. Well, he probably could have said it and been okay, but when he said, my wife, she's the greatest thing, and the guy's starting to tear up a little bit, and she's like in our family, and she's the kids, and she's given up her, her career, in a career sense, right?
Yeah.
But her career, when did it become bad?
I know,
dude. I didn't have a dad. Listen, man, you guys, I did not have a dad. If I could have had Ward and June Cleaver, I would have loved it. I would have loved it.
Yeah.
What is wrong with aspiring to be that, to have that in our society, right?
I know.
And so those are godly principles.
Yes.
So the guy, why did he get beat up though? Is it because he said that, or because it was godly principles?
Because it was godly principles.
I think so too.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And the NFL, because we're in the Pro Football Hall of Fame city. Right.
Yes.
I mean, it's right out the door here.
I know.
Okay. You're involved. You've been involved with stuff there. I have too. And we know a lot of guys. You know a lot of guys that are in the NFL or coaches and so on. And we know that deep in their hearts, a lot of them feel like we're talking about right now. They are men of faith, you know, and there's more than Tony Dungy. Everybody knows Tony Dungy, and there's more than, you know, this, that, and the other. But the guys that go in and grind every day at practice, you know, clubhouse guys, there's a lot of brothers in Christ.
Yes.
And they think just like him.
Yes.
Butker. Butker.
Yeah, Butker.
Yeah, Harrison Butker, right? And this guy is a man.
Yeah.
We're looking for men. He's not afraid to stand up, and he's not insulting anybody. He did not insult anybody.
But he is getting destroyed. It was and it was 24-hour news.
Yeah.
I got so tired of it. People beating him up.
Yeah.
And why is your opinion of him any more important than his opinion about the role of women as he sees it in his life?
I don't know that he told anybody this is how you got to be. He's just saying there's nothing going to be more fulfilling than to have a family.
Bingo.
Let me just simplify it. You know, your kids are a huge, important part of your life. I mean, probably, you know, I mean, it's going to be the biggest thing at the end of the day.
Your life has been what he was saying about family.
Mm-hmm.
Your life has been you and Mike at the
Dave.
I'm sorry, Dave. Yeah. At the Babe Stern Center.
Yeah.
It has.
Yeah, but you know, nobody cares on there. You know, when you're working in a place where someone's kind of, and I'll say marginalized. I hate using that term because like, you know, they're not marginalized, but they are marginalized in some ways. They don't have the financial clout to shake everything up in a city.
Right.
They don't have the power positions in employment. So you're just kind of, so nobody cares that much. You know, you can say about anything down here. You can pray and you can do all this. Nobody cares. They only care when you're at the places that there's some kind of really big hierarchy, you know.
Well, be glad about that.
I am, man. Because they let me have a job all these years, and they didn't find out I wasn't that smart.
After this, it's over.
I know, but you know, it's one benefit of just being a little bit seasoned, because we're not old, Joe. And I kidded you about that earlier, but we're not old because we're still relevant.
Yeah,
and you are. I know you, man. I mean, you're driving an electric car. You got an electric car.
I know.
Anyway, yeah, it's cool though. It looks like a Porsche.
In the back, it does a little bit. I think that's what attracted me. But I love the electric car actually.
But you know, when you get into where people have that social, you know, piece to them, or that powerful piece, not social, but maybe powerful piece, sometimes they really want to stand on things and say, well, you know, you really shouldn't do that, and watch out for this one. But you got a kid whose mom, this happened to me this week. The kid had to come over for a meeting, and he had this old rickety truck, graduated senior just this year, and his mom didn't want him coming over, so she blocked him in. She blocked him in with her car. And
why didn't she want him to come over?
You know, there's just this dysfunction going on, right?
Yeah, I get it.
And I know she gets angry and has these anger issues.
Okay.
But again, the kid fights through it, walks, gets there. You spend time. So these students, these kids grow up in these areas, like, and they want to talk about what's real. I mean, seriously, they do want to know what's real. Like, or at least frame it in for me that I can at least think about it.
Yeah.
You know, so I can give me something concrete.
Something I could grasp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're coaching, right, you want to prepare your team to go out there. Everybody needs to know the play.
Yeah.
If it's offense, they need to know the play. They need to know where they're supposed to go. And you give them those parameters. Then you want them to play, though, as athletes. After that, you want them to be able to go out and do it on their own, right?
Yes.
So, okay, perform. Here's what we do. Here's kind of the schematic. And now, you know, be the athlete. Be who be who God created you to be, right?
It's a great point. Yeah.
You know, so if I can lay it out to him, I say, look, from my perspective, here's what happened. And I'm smoking weed and I'm doing all this stuff. And here's where my life turned. Here's when it turned. And you need to consider that, because I'm telling you, bro, I'm a miracle sitting here. I should not be sitting here right now. Right. I should have been, you know, driving while I was drunk, driving, you know, all those things you do.
Yeah.
You know, and you think about it, God had a different plan, I guess. Right. Because we're both sitting here. We're both cognitively here.
Yes.
Right. We're,
Yeah.
and I don't know about you, but I'm not wearing Depends, you know?
No, I'm not either.
And so those are all days,
but it's but I think the same thing. I tell people I should be dead or in prison.
right? From Akron, East Akron,
Well, North
or North Akron.
But then I should be dead or in prison.
Yeah.
I was on that path.
Yeah.
God saved me off that path. But then I kept fighting against him for a while.
Sure.
But he at least got me off that path.
He never leaves you or forsake you is what his word says. So he's got his mark on you.
Yeah.
So he has a plan, a purpose, hope, and a future that's the truth. So everybody in here, even Zach back here, he got a plan, hope, purpose, and future for Zach.
He does.
And Zach's a young guy, and he's probably trying to figure, what am I doing next?
I know.
Right? Because we're all young and we all went through that. So he knows, he needs to know from us, like, hey man, we've been through that.
Yeah.
And so
he doesn't listen though.
No. Well, he was a cross country runner. Them guys are tougher than everybody else.
Yeah, and he's the producer of the show too. So I got to take orders from him.
He's a good guy.
He is a good guy.
But when we have that, we have always, I always try to, I don't think of this all the time, but we really do have like the truth. I'm convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that this truth is real. That God's truth is real. It's just without, so first I think people have to settle. Do you think God's real or not? And if you do, then you're going to accept that as his truth. And I don't always agree with it. Right? Because sometimes
you may not agree. You agree with it. You just want to fight against it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm a selfish person.
Well, of course.
Right? No, I'm right. Yeah. My wife and I, when we're sitting at home, and I want to watch TV and she wants to have conversation, and a long day at work. And I'm like, I don't want to talk. Because I've just been talking all day.
Yeah, but she hasn't.
No. Well, and she, women, man, that's what we love about them. And we also, they drive us nuts at times. But we love it.
They drive us nuts because they most often tell us the truth about ourselves.
Yeah. Amen, bro. That's true. So I'm looking at all those things. My selfishness, I want it my way. I battle all those things. You said this earlier. The church is a hospital for the, for us, for the sick, and we are. And so all those things come to life. And I want to share this with other people because I really realize that I have the truth. I have a copy of it, and here's, it's going to be different for you because God wired you to be different than me.
Right.
It's going to look different to you.
But there is absolute truth.
Yeah. Right. The core pieces are all the same for all of us.
Amen.
But you got this thing that you're going to go do. This is that encouragement piece. Like, look, man, I don't know what God's got for you. Right. I never thought of this kid growing up in a neighborhood going to be a nuclear engineer, going to work in Virginia as his first job. I would have never said that's going to happen. I wouldn't have known that. But God has a different idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I can think of other guys. Kenny Peterson's one of our good friends. And Kenny was a kid, grew up in our building, played at Ohio State, won the national championship, played for Jim Tressel, played for Green Bay, played for Denver, 6'7" guy, and when he was 16 years old, you and I talked about this one time, and I threw him out of our building.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to kill me. We had a little conflict, and he said, I'm going to get ready to hit you. And exactly how he said, I'm going to get ready to hit you. And I said, hit me, because as soon as you hit me, I want to hit you. But you know what? We're best friends now.
Yeah.
Right? We're best friends now. We went through those tough times. And now Kenny is a guy leading in the community. He has experience in the NFL, and he had hard times in the NFL too. It wasn't always easy. He had some ups and downs there.
Right.
And now he's, trying to be a businessman. He is a businessman, not trying to be. He is a businessman. Serves on our board. Went from a kid I threw out who was going to punch me to being on our board of directors.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great. And I'm still scared of him. He's got arms like you.
I don't have those arms anymore. Those arms are gone. Those days are gone.
Joe, listen, folks. Joe was benching 315
and blew my shoulder
up until just a few weeks ago.
No, it was actually, I think I was 59 years old. I was benching 320, blew my shoulder out to the point where Dr. Hellman and Omni had to give me 2 surgeries, taught me a lesson. God was teaching me a lesson. Mm-hmm. Joe, quit showing off. You don't need to be benching 320 anymore.
But it feels good.
It was ego. It was
I know,
ego.
I
Now
know.
it feels good. Feels good that I don't have to bench 320.
No, you don't really. You and Mark Murphy are two guys I know that are
Murph and
studs,
I
man.
were very, very. Mark and I, he was my defensive coordinator at Malone.
Yeah.
Mark Murphy played for the Green Bay Packers, by the way. This is American football.
Yeah, but you
Because
guys.
we got to remember we may be talking to people.
This is real football.
No, don't do
I don't
that.
mind insulting you guys. Look, we won the Civil War. Not Civil War. We won the war. The T-tax didn't work.
Don't do that.
Love you guys. Just kidding. I'm a Beatles fan. But you guys, you and Murph were two studs, and you guys were really. And here's the other thing too: when you're doing that, and this is part of coaching, when you're able to work out with your team, just do some things. You don't have to do those, but just they can see that you're. Yeah.
Oh, when I was coaching in Akron, I had the
What
bench
a leader.
press record.
That's
for DBs.
leadership. We're talking about leadership today.
Yeah,
that's leadership.
Leadership is being out there.
I mean, it's part of it.
Leadership is being in the fray.
Yeah, it is.
Being in the fray.
On them hot days in the gym.
Yes.
And you don't,
Now, I'm going to take it a step further.
Right.
Being at Babe Stern every day for 44 years, working with young people, that's being in the fray. That's being in the fray. That's more being in the fray than being out in the hot sun during two-a-days.
I don't know about that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think it's all relative,
yeah,
right?
because you're doing it for 44 years.
Well, nobody else would hire me, Joe.
Come on, Jim.
No, there's a lot of truth to that. I felt real connected there. I felt this is where I'm supposed to be. I have.
Yeah, you found God's purpose for your life.
Yeah, I have. But it wasn't always easy. But I got to tell you, there was a time I went through where I actually really wanted to walk away. I tried to actually go get another job.
Yeah.
I applied a couple places and it didn't work out. And I think there's a reason for that now.
Yeah.
You've gone through those times where you're coaching and you're just like, okay, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
I need to move this, what's going on? And it's really it was about me at that point, meaning like not I wasn't getting paid or anything like that. It was just more like a time for me, season that I'm going through at that point. You get into that middle of your life and you say, here I am. What is going on? I was so locked into getting programs running and started. And, this is the thing, Joe, everything was a good intention and it was fruitful. But because we're driven guys, and I'm speaking to the men especially, which I think it's a lot of us, and you talk about leadership, you have to have some people around you to pull you back and say, as a good friend, tell you what you don't need, tell you what you don't want to hear, and say, look, you're burning a candle at both ends, because that's what coaches do, right? And I think leaders do that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Pastors do it.
And pastors
we have talked about that.
We got to take care of our pastors, by the way. And yes, that's right. Like we were talking to Dan, he's up there hanging a cross from the ceiling.
I know.
The lead pastor at a church, right?
Yeah.
But we've all
Which didn't make me feel too good about sitting underneath.
No.
But that's neither here nor there.
But that's where your personal seat license is. This church where, they have
but no, PSLs, I know what you're saying about
you don't have to give here, just buy your PSL.
Doing that. Going out and buying the wire, hanging the thing himself.
And you've done that stuff.
Well, yeah, we all have.
Cutting ball fields.
Yes.
Yeah,
picking up rocks so that kids don't fall on them.
Your program that you started at Malone University didn't have a football field.
No.
And I remember you telling me you were picking up
I had Murph, Jay Brophy played for the Miami Dolphins. All of us, we lined up across the field and we had to walk 100 yards on that practice field, picking up all the rocks so that kids wouldn't fall on the rocks.
Right.
You did those kind of things. You do it because you love the kids.
But you do it. You do it for all those reasons. I think we want to be successful. We want to prove that, I think, again, I believe that God's made us to work.
Yeah.
That's part of what's in our DNA.
Yeah.
Provide for our families. We're supposed to go out and work. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In that, sometimes, right, we get really driven to be that successful. But that's that hunter part. That's that hunter and gatherer, man. We're going to go out and,
you're offending people right now saying that, but who cares?
Well, I don't mean to. I'm just
I know.
Speaking.
I know.
Right?
I know.
And we go out and do this stuff. And sometimes, we don't quit.
Yeah.
We run on a little bit of coffee. And oh, by the way, I got to go get a workout in too.
Oh, yeah, you do today.
No, I don't mean that part. We close.
No, but you do.
You want to wrap it up?
I think we're done. Tim, I want to thank you so much
Yeah.
for being here.
Wow.
You are, I'm going to say, I respect you. I admire you. You have always been a guy in this town since I've been here, and it's been probably over 20 years now that I've lived here. You've always been a part of this, a major part of this community. And I'm proud to know you and to be your friend. And I thank you so much for everything that you've done, what you're doing in these kids' lives. You have no idea how many lives you have touched. And I just congratulate you on that, and God bless you. And I just want to tell you folks that as you look at Tim's life, it's a life of unselfishness. It's a life of giving to others. It's a life that God has produced. And he just keeps giving back. And that's what we're called to do. We're not called to sit back and say, this world is so bad and I need to avoid it and I need to go to a monastery and I need to become a monk and I need to hide away from it. Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ wants us. He didn't. He was right in the middle of it. He was right in the temples. He was right there. He died on the cross in the middle of it all for us. We're called to do the same. We are called to be in the fray. And so that's the reality of Christianity. It's not, if you're looking for comfort, if you're looking for a religion that makes you feel good about yourself and comfortable, it's not Christianity. And this is an example of it. We see examples of it all the time. I hope you enjoy this podcast. If you do, remember, I'm trying to get this all right because my young producer, Zach, tells me how to do this every time. And I'm not on social media. And I'm not up with it. So bear with me. I think you subscribe to us on YouTube if you like us. And you follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all those things. You follow us on those. You subscribe to us on YouTube. And just keep watching us. Keep watching us. Stay on this journey with us. Have a great week, everybody. God bless. Thank you, Tim.